Hello, everybody, and welcome back to What Self-Care Looks Like. This is Brittany Elliott. I am a self-care and mom life management coach, and I help working moms build simple and sustainable self-care routines that impact their overall wellness and enrich their lives. And we're in the Mother's Day series, so we have another mom who is going to share her story with us today. And we have Lindsay Lusk. Lindsay is a working mom of an almost 2-year-old daughter, and she's currently pregnant with her second child. She enjoys traveling and spending time with close friends and family. Lindsay has been doing the inner work to find the balance between enjoying the beauty of the motherhood journey while overcoming the challenges she encounters along the way. Through her story today, she hopes to inspire other new mothers to seek the support they need and find the strength to address their own needs while feeling empowered through their roles as mothers. Lindsay, thank you for coming on today.
Thank you for having me.
Of course. And we are going to jump right into it because your story is very powerful, and I feel like our listeners are going to learn a lot from you today. So just tell us a little bit about your journey into motherhood.
Okay. So I never wanted to be a mom. Like growing up, I never seen myself as a mom. I've always been like a nurturing person, but until I met the Blaze, that is the father of my daughter, well, my kids, and until I met him, he's the first person that I could see myself actually having children with. So we tried to have children for like 3 years, try to get pregnant for 3 years, and we never could. My doctor said trying to have kids is like every other day for a whole year. And we were like, okay, well, that's kind of like unrealistic. I mean, maybe not for some people, but for us, we were just like, that's not, so that's not our thing. So we kind of just gave up. We loved traveling, and we were like, you know what, let's just spend the rest of our lives traveling. So that was kind of the plan. And we were saving up for an RV, and we were going to just kind of travel and possibly live like van life or on the road. And then I ended up getting pregnant. And he was like, when I told him, I was like, I think I'm pregnant. And he was like, yeah, okay. I'm like, you're right. I'm probably not. But I did end up being pregnant. So from that point, our life just kind of pivoted, like we tried for so long. And then I finally gave up the idea of being a mom. And then when I got pregnant, it's like we had to pivot our life again and our plans again. So that was kind of hard for me. It was a happy thing. We were excited, but then also like, oh my God, now this is real.
Mm-hmm.
And it's just, I don't know, just the feeling of wanting something so bad. And every time I get my period, I would cry. And I'm like, is it you? Is it me? Neither of us wanted to know. Neither of us wanted to take those steps and get checked. So from that point, when it happened, it was a shock. So we had Penelope. She is 1.5 years now. She'll be 2. And I had some really bad postpartum depression with her. I think the first year of motherhood was very hard for me. Like, let me think of how to say this. Sorry.
Was it when you say like it was hard and challenging, was it physical? Was it mental? Like, where do you think most of the struggle was?
I think mentally for me, because it's a whole lifestyle change. That first year of motherhood, I didn't know what to expect. Me and Blaze never really held a baby before. I've never been around children. So it's like, you're in the hospital and you have this baby, and then they're just like, well, take it home, figure out like what to do. And that's when it hit me, honestly. Like the whole time I was pregnant, I didn't really feel connected to my daughter. honestly, this pregnancy now, I still don't feel connected to my son. It really hit me when we were on the way home from the hospital. I remember I like broke out in tears because, if you've given birth and in the hospital, there's just so much going on. There's so many people in and out of your room. There's no time to really like enjoy the baby and your new little family. So on the way home, that's when it hit me and I broke down. And I had, how they talk about 2 weeks of like the baby blues. I did have that. That was the first time I ever had anxiety. I've never felt anxiety before. I couldn't even tell you what it was. Like I'm not a big worrier. And I just remember having a lot of those emotions. I remember just like holding her and crying. And I'm like, this is normal. But so she became colic for like the first 3 months of her life. We couldn't figure out the right formula for her. She had a dairy allergy. We switched her formulas 5 different times. How they say newborns are supposed to have like 45-minute to an hour and a half wake windows. She would be up for 6 hours straight, crying. Like I would take her to the doctor and I'm like, what is wrong with my child? I honestly think I have like PTSD from her being a newborn. The lack of sleep and then the hormones. Looking back, I think I had a little bit of postpartum, I don't want to say psychosis or like maybe paranoia. When I look back, I wish people around me would have noticed or said things like, hey, maybe you're not okay. Because by this point, like when she was between 2 and 3 months, I wholeheartedly believe that an evil spirit attached itself to her in the hospital and we brought her home. And that's why she was acting like this. Like, wow. I thought she was possessed. I saged our whole apartment. And this is not like normal stuff for me. I've never saged anything. And like, I remember at night, like, I would hear things. I wouldn't say there were voices, but I would hear things. I was seeing things out of the corner of my eyes. I felt like, I don't know, I just felt like this dark presence that literally, I'm not going to say something was telling me, like I didn't physically hear words in my head, but I had thoughts of drowning my daughter in the bathtub. Like I was scared to go to the bathroom in the middle of the night because I felt such like a dark presence in there that was like wanted me to do that. And luckily I could tell myself like these are just thoughts. Everyone has thoughts, right? And it's just distinguishing whether these thoughts are real. And I kind of tried to like, it's my hormones. I'm sleep deprived. I'm hearing a crying baby all the time. Like I'm not in my right mind. But looking back, I wish I would have got help sooner and known these things. I mean, I don't know if they're common thoughts or not, but they're not normal for me. I don't know if other moms like ever felt that way. I'm sure they have. Obviously, postpartum psychosis is a thing. I'm not going to say it was that because I'm sure it's much more extreme. But it's just having these thoughts and like, I don't know. Honestly, I blame it on the sleep deprivation because what else could it be?
Yeah, and that is so interesting, Lindsay, that you bring that up because a lot of times as mothers, like especially as new mothers, we are so afraid sometimes to call it what it is because it's like if I call this postpartum psychosis, then maybe it means more. Like someone who's actually diagnosed with that, they're probably feeling this at, like an infinite level beyond what I am feeling. And a lot of times because we compare like, well, what I'm feeling compared to that person with that diagnosis is probably so much bigger that we almost like disregard what we are feeling. And I think I did the same thing. I'm like, yeah, well, it's postpartum anxiety, but I mean, it's not in the same way. And when
Mm-hmm.
we deprive ourselves of being able to give ourselves space to say this is what it is, and there's just levels of that, then I think it makes us feel like even more isolated in what's happening. And you mentioned wishing that other people had maybe noticed it in you and been able to say like, hey girl, I think something's going on. But going the other way, like, did you feel the security to go to someone else and say like, hey, I'm I'm feeling this pull to like drown my daughter. Like, did you feel the safe space to be able to tell somebody that without them trying to like check you in somewhere?
No. And that is what I think is a problem.
Mm-hmm.
Because I remember, you go to these baby appointments and you have to fill out these mood evaluations. And I remember I was filling it out, and one was like, have you had like suicidal thoughts or like hurting someone else? And I was going to hit yes. And Blaze like slapped my hand away and was like, you're going to get the baby taken off of us. Like, you can't answer that. And I'm like, oh my God, you're right. Like, I can't tell these doctors how I'm feeling. Like, what's going to happen? Are they going to take my baby?
Mm-hmm.
And you just don't know. You don't really have the support, even in the medical field. You don't know what's going to happen. They don't tell you, like, I mean, they ask you, but they don't say, like, hey, if you're feeling like this, we have medication and we have, people you can talk to. They just ask you for, in my situation anyway.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And
And it's
so,
like no one's really checking.
do,
And it's also like, I feel like a lot of moms don't have other sympathy, older people, anyways, our parents and our grandparents' generation, they had kids and they're just kind of like, well, deal with it. You made this choice. Like, I remember my mom, she was like, my daughter was like 3 months, and I was literally texting my mom. I was like, if you don't keep this baby overnight, I'm going to kill her. And my mom was like, okay, I'll take her. But like, why does it have to get to that point?
mm-hmm.
Like, if you see I'm struggling, nobody's like sympathetic or like wants to help. Everybody's kind of just like, that's what you have going on. I mean, Blaze was very supportive. He was going through his own mental health things. He was going through it too. We had a baby that was literally crying nonstop. Like, it was driving us insane, both of us.
Mm-hmm.
And we're new parents and we don't know what to do. And we don't know how to help ourselves, let alone help each other.
Yeah.
We took turns as much as we could, but he only took a week off and then he had to go back to work.
Yeah.
I took 8 weeks off of work. And when those 8 weeks are up, I was like, I need to go back to work. I need adult interaction. I cannot be a stay-at-home mom. Like, I have no idea how they do it. More power to them. I'm a social being and I thrive off of that. I'm a server. I had 2 jobs at the time. I was a pharmacy tech at Rite Aid and I was serving. But I just needed to get out of the
Mm-hmm.
house
Yeah.
and feel like myself again.
I'm so happy that you're sharing this, like really sharing your story, because on one end, I'm like, this is heartbreaking because you are not like the only one. Like your story is not the rarity. It's kind of like more normal. And we still feel like as women, as new moms, like we cannot talk about it because when we go to talk about it, we don't get that validation. And it seemed like if you would have had that validation like just a little more like sooner, and for someone to say like, it's okay, you're not crazy, let me help you, let me support you, we're not going to take your kid, like you would have felt safer just in your own mind instead of fighting with yourself, like fighting with your thoughts. So now you're fighting with your thoughts. You know that your partner is struggling, your baby is screaming, and no wonder why you're melting down. But then to the ones who are closest to you, they're not able to give you the support that you need or even seeing you the way that you see yourself. And I think that that is such a challenge and such a struggle. And it makes it very hard, like you said, to just feel connected to anything. And, you know, some of us think motherhood is going to be a little more beautiful than it is in the beginning. And sometimes it's not. Sometimes it is a nightmare. So I appreciate you sharing that part of it because I mean, that is it. Like, those are all the words that I can never find to put it together. Like, that is it. Those are the horrors of it. However, like, what changed for you? Because you're expecting again now, right? So, where was the turning point for you?
So, okay. I was about 5 months postpartum. I was still, okay, so I didn't have these thoughts of hurting her because her crying got better, but I was still depressed in a sense that I was crying. I was crying for no reason every day. I couldn't get through a workday without busting out in tears. And I didn't know why. People would be like, well, what's wrong? Like, are you and Blaze fighting? Is something going on at home? And I'm like, no, I literally have no idea. I just get this overwhelming feeling of sadness and I just have to cry. And I'm someone that likes to look inside myself, like, what's going on? Why am I feeling like this? I like to pick apart my feelings and really figure out what's going on. And there was nothing. And I'm like, it has to be postpartum depression. It has to be my hormones. There's no other answer. So I'm like, okay, I need medication. And I didn't know who to go to for medication either. I'm like, I don't have a PC. I didn't have a PCP at the time. I just had my gynecologist. And I'm like, I don't think they deal with that. So I'm like, okay, I have to find a PCP. So at this point, I'm like 5 months postpartum. And I called a PCP and they were like, well, we're taking new patients in 3 months. I'm like, okay, that's fine. I've been dealing with it for 5 months. I can wait 3 more. So I did. But in that 3-month period, I literally, like, I was bawling my eyes. Like, I couldn't even work half the time. And I remember my pharmacy manager was like, Lindsay, you need to call your gynecologist right now. You need to demand medication. You do not need to be living like this. Like, she's like, call them right now. So I did. And they were like, we can get you in today. The gynecologist was like, we take this very seriously. You should have came to us. We would have got you right in. Come in today. And that made me feel good. I'm also sharing that because I don't think a lot of people know. You are postpartum for a year after you have a baby, and you can reach out to your gynecologist for medication or anything to deal with postpartum. So I went in, and it wasn't my regular gynecologist. It was like whoever I can get an appointment with in. And she put me on 5 milligrams of Lexapro. And she was also postpartum. She was like, I just had a baby. I understand. Like, you're not crazy. You know, I put it all out there. She was like, okay. So I started this Lexapro for 2 weeks and it wasn't working. I was still crying every day. I wasn't feeling any better. I just kind of had some brain fog. So I messaged her and I was like, hey, it's been 2 weeks. You know, I don't feel any better. She's like, give it time. I'm like, okay. So I wait for 4 weeks, a whole month. She messaged her again. I'm like, hey, I still don't feel like it's working. She's like, okay, let's bump up your dose. I'm like, okay, bump up my dose. And then I'm on it for 2 weeks after that. So 6 weeks total with 1 dose increase. And it still was not working. And I remember I was crying at work at Rite Aid. And I was like, I'm just going to stop taking it because it's not working. It's making me more tired. It's making me brain foggy. I'm still crying every day. I don't feel better. It's not working. And my pharmacy manager was like, Lindsay, call the office, speak to a different doctor, try and get a hold of your regular gynecologist. get on something else. You have to be your own advocate. And she was like, if I would have to be on an antidepressant, I would really like Wellbutrin. It's like, it's more of an upper than like a relaxer. Like I feel like Lexapro is more for anxiety, which I didn't have anxiety. I had no energy and depression and I was crying. Like I wanted something to kind of like perk me up. So I messaged my regular gynecologist just on like the app. And I was like, hey, this is what's going on. I seen this doctor. This is what they prescribed me. And he was like, I'm so sorry that you're going through this. He was like, that's a pitiful dose of Lexapro. He was like, let's switch your medication. Have you ever been on antidepressants before? I'm like, no. And so he got me started on Wellbutrin. And within the first week, I felt so much better. So much better. And this was in February. So it took me a couple months. No, it might have been in March. So it took me probably like 3 months to find the right medication for me. And I posted stuff and other moms messaged me. I remember one girl told me she tried 11 different medications to find the right one for her. She was like, don't give up. I'm like, wow, it's so discouraging when you're, first of all, it's hard to ask for help. And then the help that you're getting, is it working? It's discouraging. Like, is this just me? Is this the new me? I'm forever going to be this sad person. I'm never going to feel like myself again. And you just get in these slumps. But it gets better. And when I came around to a year postpartum, my daughter turned a year in July. In the first week in July, I stopped taking my medicine because I just felt like inside I didn't need it. I'm like, I'm starting to feel like myself again. I kind of feel more agitated than anything. So I'm like, maybe I don't need it anymore and it's like doing too much. So I stopped taking it and I felt perfectly fine. I felt like myself again. I was so happy. And I was like, wow, there really is an end to the postpartum depression or postpartum anything. You know, it's not the new you. Your hormones are so out of whack and it's not your fault. And so many of us go through it. So I got off and I got pregnant the next month. So, and then while I'm pregnant, I feel so good because I stopped taking it. My doctor was like, why? And I was like, I just felt like I didn't need it anymore. He was like, okay. He was like, if you start to feel like it again while you're pregnant, we will get you back on it. You can absolutely take it while you're pregnant. I said, okay, thank you, which I felt fine. I felt good this whole pregnancy, but I am scared about postpartum depression again. And he said, we're going to put you right back on this medicine as soon as you have the baby. And hopefully everything will be okay and I won't experience what I did with my daughter. Yeah, I have hope. I have high spirits this time around just because I found a solution. I found a medication that works for me. I know there's still an end to it, you know, like I only felt like that for a year. So give myself a year, give myself grace. You know, it gets better. It does. As your baby gets more independent and older, it's really a weight off of your shoulders. For me, anyway.
Yeah, and that was so beautifully said, especially because it really does get better. And while you're in it, it's very hard to see anything past it. Like you just think, this is my life now. Like I remember I thought, like, how did I get here? And then I was so hard on myself. Like I went down this rabbit hole of every single decision I had ever made in my life that had led me to that point of like getting pregnant and having a child. And so it was just this internal battle. And then I was thinking about, you know, like, did I waste so much of my potential? Like, has everything been taken from me now? And am I going to have to learn how to navigate my life from brokenness? because
Yes.
that's what it felt like. It just felt, broken. And I think for you, your mindset shift now is like, I've been through it. I now have learned how to advocate for myself, right? And luckily you had someone in your corner, like your manager at the time was like, hey, listen, this isn't right, and this is what you need to do. Like, if you don't do it, I'm doing it for you, and gave you the push that you need. And so, even though I understand that there's that fear that this could happen again, I just love that you have the resources that you need. So, what would you recommend to a new mom, or, someone who's pregnant now, for the steps that they maybe can take to, like, even in your darkest moments, like, even in the nightmare, like, what steps can they take now to, like, get ahead of it, if that's even possible?
Like I said, I think you need to get help as soon as you possibly can. I wish I didn't let myself suffer for so long and not speak up and say, I didn't advocate for myself. I waited, it took me 8 months postpartum to find medicine for me. And if I would have just been honest and not been afraid and spoke about it, and the more I talked about it with other moms were like, oh my gosh, I had that feeling too. Like my best friend, she has 2 kids, and I told her how I felt. And she was like, Lindsay, she was like, one time I was bathing my 2 kids and I had to call my mom and tell her, come over here because I have the urge to drown them. And I'm like, oh my God. Like, I think so many moms experience these thoughts and these feelings, and nobody talks about it because you just are so afraid to be judged. And the more that I talk about it, I don't really get judgment. So I don't know why I'm still hesitant to talk about it sometimes or to tell my story. You just can't be afraid. It is what it is. And at the end of the day, you can't be the best mom that you can possibly be if you are not right in your mind and you are not getting the help that you need. And it just changed into a perspective of, I have a little girl looking up to me and someone who needs me. It's not even for me at this point. I have to do it for her to be the best person that I could be and the best mom I could be. And all I could really tell other moms is just don't be afraid to ask for help. Call your doctor. If you feel like something is not right, speak to someone. It is okay to get on medicine. That doesn't make you crazy or a bad mom, or even if you're on medicine, it doesn't have to be forever.
Mm-hmm.
That was like, I was all, not that I was weird about medicine. I never really cared. I just was never on medicine before. And this time around, I'm like, yep, I'm getting on the medicine as soon as I have this baby, because I don't even want to have those feelings or thoughts. Hopefully, we just bypass that whole thing, And I had the feel like what you said. I had those feelings too. Like maybe I made a mistake. Like maybe I wasn't meant to be a mom. Like I would tell people like, oh, how do you love being a mom? And I'd be like being a mom? Is that a thing? Because I genuinely hate it. And people would be like, oh. I'm like, seriously. I mean, some days I don't want to feed myself 3 meals a day. Some days I don't have the energy. Are you allowed to cuss on here? Okay, well, some days I don't have the energy to wash my own ass, and I gotta wash this little kid's ass. It's like, while they're so little, you're on the back burner, and you have to help them do everything. And once I started accepting that well, as she's getting older, it's getting easier. Obviously, they get more independent. They need you in other ways. But I've just accepted that this is going to be my life for a couple years. This is the life that I chose. I want a family. And it's okay. As she's little and you see how fast she grows, I don't know, it gives you I don't even know how to find the word. Everything just comes full circle.
And hearing you, like, I just love your courage, and I just love how far you've come in just a short amount of time. And I love to give my listeners some backstory. So, Lindsay's partner, Blaze, is my cousin. Technically, he's my second cousin, but we, grew up in the same age. We're just a few years apart, but we're not like close in life. Our lives are not close. So they were both at our wedding, and I think that might have been the first time that I met you, maybe, is at my wedding. And so, like, on one side, my heart breaks for you that I wasn't able to be, that I wasn't part of your inner circle to have been able to see what you were going through, to be able to support you. And that is very heartbreaking for me. On the other hand, I love that you're so open about it, because I would have never known to even reach out to you to be a guest for the Mother's Day series. Like, Lindsay posts what she's feeling in real time on her Facebook, and like is asking for support and really seeing what other women are feeling like. And I think that's beautiful, that you're no longer hiding behind it, and you're feeling empowered and feeling growth. And I want to know, like, how has motherhood overall really pushed you to accomplish your goals at this point?
Well, I feel like a lot of my goals have changed. I loved traveling. I still love traveling. We're actually going on a baby moon in like 2 weeks. We're going to take her to Florida with us, flying for the first time. But we did, I don't know if you know, but we did like YouTube traveling videos, and we kind of wanted to go that route. But that's changed with being a mom, because traveling with young children is not fun. So it's kind of like traveling is what fulfills me and Blaze, but it's kind of on hold. The traveling we would ideally like to do without little children. It's kind of on hold until they get a little older. We still have a 5-year savings plan to get an RV, because we're like, with young children, that's going to be the best and easiest way to travel. Pack us all up in an RV and just road trip across the United States. So we still have these plans, but they've definitely shifted. And also, I used to care so much about money and be so driven. I still have savings goals and all of that. But I remember as a child, my parents, that's what they did. That's all they did was work. They were never present. And I remember just always wishing they were around more. And I don't want to make that same mistake with my daughter. I still work. I work 4 days a week. I double on Thursdays, so I work 5 shifts. But I'm learning that right now money is not everything, and work is not more important than my home life and my daughter and being a mom. So that's been the transition for me, because I used to be very goal oriented, and now my goals are just kind of, 1, surviving, and 2, being the best mom that I can be. And I feel like being a mom has helped me heal my inner child, because I want to do things differently than my parents did. And, kind of, I don't fix the parts of me being a mom. You know what I mean, kind of?
Yeah, like those part, and I'm going to take some liberties and paraphrasing here, but maybe like those gaps or needs that you had as a child that you maybe didn't even know then, that did not get fulfilled, you can proactively do that with your children. And that awareness of that, I think, is very important, and it really does change your parenting style. It definitely has an impact on it. And I think that you still are very goal oriented and like, but like you said, the goals have now changed. And I think that you have embraced that. Whereas sometimes we don't, we fight that. Like we fight that change that's happening instead of just accepting like, this is our life now. Our life is still beautiful and we can still have all these great things. And I just think, because you talked about full circle moments like earlier, y'all had already been planning to like get an RV and travel the world, and how perfectly does that fit for your life now? Like that is the way. And I think that you were always on this path, as bumpy as it has been, and the fact that you can sit with that and say like, this may not have been the way that I was going to get there, but this is
Yeah.
how I got there. And even you trying to get pregnant for years and just being like, you know what, it's not working for us. Forget it. We're just going to do our travel thing. And then as soon as you said, like, took that pivot, it's like, let's give you a baby. Do you know what I mean? And then it's like, this is
Yes.
the way that you are going to fulfill that goal. And I think that sometimes the power of that, like the manifestation that we have in our lives, can be kind of scary, because on one end you were like, I was just really fighting some demons, and now I'm on the path to everything that I wanted.
Yes.
But you take the good with the bad, right? And I think that you've done the work, you're continuing the work, you're helping other mothers along the way, you're supporting your partner, you're supporting yourself, which is very important, because like you said, you cannot be the best mom that you can be if you're not taking care of yourself, like
Yes.
numero uno. So my final question before I let you go would be, what does self-care look like for you?
For me. Okay. So that's still something I'm trying to figure out. I'm a low maintenance girl. Like, I don't get my fingernails done. I get my hair done probably twice a year. Self care to me is honestly like silence in the morning and drinking my coffee in silence. Like, having those couple hours by myself when she goes to sleep and staying up and just, I like to do like stupid puzzles like play Sudoku and stuff. So I like staying up and doing that. It's not much, but it's the little things that keep you going, honestly. Like, getting a hot shower and not having a toddler trying to climb in there with me. I only get to do that like twice a week because I'm like, Blaze, I'm locking her out of the bathroom and I want to hear some peace and quiet and get a half-hour hot shower. So it's, we work together as best as we can. It's also hard because he works mornings and I work nights, and our only day off together is Sundays. So she's always with me or with him. And the little time we do have together as a family, it's like, is it family time? Do I take this time for myself? It, there's a balance. You wish you had more time, but we just do not, so we don't have to pay for childcare. You have to make those sacrifices in your relationship sometimes and for yourself, unfortunately. Also, I know people say like getting a shower and going to the grocery store by yourself isn't like a, a luxury or a break, but for me it is. And everybody doesn't have that. There are single moms who have to take 3 kids to the grocery store, and I see them in there struggling, and I'm just like, oh, thank God I don't have to do that. You have to look for the positive, the good and the bad. There is beauty in the struggle, and you have to search for it. It's honestly a mindset, because you could look at it 2 ways. Like, oh, I should just be able to go to the grocery store without my kid. like everybody needs to go grocery shopping. But then you look at someone else's situation and you see them struggling and they don't have the help and they don't have the option. And then you're like, wow, I am grateful. I'm blessed that I'm even in this situation. So little things like that, in changing my mindset and trying to find the positives, has what helped me in appreciating my life more. I know it's not really self-care, so I don't know if I answered that question that well. But I don't know. I'm not like a self-care kind of girly. Like, going to like a salon type of way.
Mm-hmm. No, that's perfect. You just summed up my entire business for me right now, unprompted, because
oh, good, perfect.
yeah, so self-care really is the practice of protecting your well-being and happiness, and anything that you can do that impacts that, to me, is self-care. It's the right thing. And like you doing your puzzles, while she sleeps, that impacts your intellectual wellness. And when you're, asking yourself, how do I feel and what do I need? That's your emotional wellness. When you're sitting in silence and thinking about the appreciation that you have for your life, that's your spiritual wellness, while you're just like enjoying your cup of coffee. And all of that, making sure that we feel balanced in our wellness, is how that we can go out and we can show up, not just for other people, but mostly for ourselves. And I think that you encompass what self-care looks like in real life, like in a practical way. And I'm sure that you love, just like the rest of us do, like love a good, spa day, like you want to get a massage, maybe you love a mani-pedi and all of that kind of thing. And, I love that too when I can, but the reality of it is I don't have the time to do it. Like I do my nails at home. I got my little gel polish kit from Amazon, and I just be out here, doing the best that I can. And those activities are great to include in your self-care routine, but like you're saying, like what is practical for your lifestyle and what makes you feel good. So I love that, and I love you, and thank you so much for sharing your story. And for our listeners, like, please listen to this again. I mean, I know like I was getting emotional and it was heavy, but it was real. And so listen to it, take notes. Reach out to Lindsay. Like, is your page public?
Yeah.
Not
I
really.
don't think my Facebook is. My Instagram is. I can make my Facebook public, right?
Yeah, you don't have to. Do you want to, like, people can find you on Instagram? I can drop the link in the description notes, just to reach out. No trolling. Don't be trolling my girl and getting on there, because
that's why I don't like Facebook that much. I like to keep it like close friends and family, because some people just post. They write too much. There's too much
commentary.
Yeah. There's too many characters you can put on there.
Yeah, for sure. So we'll get all that information. But thank you, and thank you to our listeners. And I'll talk to y'all very, very soon.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Anne, for having me.
Of course.